we talked a little bit about surveillance. Well, we persistently talked a little bit about surveillance on the show, but one thing that we haven't really covered is doorbells. So these video doorbells are frequently kind of ubiquitous in nicer neighborhoods. They will often be streaming that information back to a server, and in some cases, it's very easy for law enforcement to be aware that this footage exists and then request it and be able to get it without even necessarily interacting with the homeowner. So it kind of means that this is de facto surveillance that is very easy to access in some cases, and it might not be immediately clear to people who is going to be impacted by that. You think like people going in and out of the door, but in fact, it turns out between 20 and 30 feet away, you can clearly hear conversations between people who might be in a car, who might be walking by on the sidewalk on the phone or something. And that's a lot further than most people expected. And because of the way that this sort of data is being stored, it's really not clear then, whether or not it's legal to listen in on someone who's maybe in their own vehicle on the phone or something with the window partway down that a doorbell nearby happens to catch. It's just a little bit of something that you might not have considered when you're out and about. The fact that private security cameras might actually be recording your conversation and could be stitched together pretty easily just by going and getting the audio from these recordings that are progressively further and further down the street as maybe you walk down. It's just I guess a new level of surveillance that, because of the private nature of it, is difficult to regulate, because these are people that are voluntarily putting video doorbells up on their door, and also not very familiar, because these are still pretty new. Not everybody has a video doorbell, not everybody is aware of their sensitivity, so the fact that this could extend out in a bubble like 30 feet away from each place that they're planted, and then there's maybe a whole bunch of them on a street, means that an entire residential neighborhood might actually be under surveillance that makes it really, really easy for that data to be pulled by law enforcement or anybody else who has access to it, such as the company hosting the servers. So a lot of these servers are also supposed to only be accessed under like certain circumstances by the companies who are running them, like Amazon, for example. But in going through one of the stories on this, they were just kind of like, yeah, we have strong internal controls that says they're not supposed to do anything bad. But whether or not there's actually any restrictions on employees accessing these recordings is a big question, because it's not really clear whether or not, they're just told not to do anything bad and it's on an honor system, or if there's actually stringent internal controls. It kind of seems like not so much the latter. So somebody being able to, for weird, creepy personal reasons, go through and start surveilling somebody in a neighborhood. Let's say that, you have an ex who works at Amazon who's real crazy and somehow has access to these sorts of recordings. It would be conceivable that they could use their access or abuse their access to be able to surveil you in ways that really most people would not be aware was possible. So even getting access to like your neighbor's doorbell camera and being able to listen to you like talking on the phone or going in and out of your house, like that might be something that most people aren't even aware is possible. So
the emergence of like all these scary like IoT connected things just seem like an untapped like network of devices that can be used to spy on people. That's pretty scary. I don't like that.
Yeah, because I used to work for a large company that has lots of personal data on many, many famous people and whatever else. And as part of that company, I got to see the internal way that a member of that company, and I was a contractor, so I wasn't even a full employee, the way that somebody could log in, take a look at a problem, look at that person's history, and the fact that I could like go and find out like what a celebrity was up to was a little, I was like, really? There's like not more like, no, you just need to have a good reason. You might, if you access it and then something happens, they might come back and find out you accessed it and then need to, ask you why. So just make sure you have a good reason. I was like, what? So the fact that that could be kind of the same way that these companies work, it's just really not known, is disturbing to me, because having been part of like a larger tech company that had access to that sort of data, they were pretty flippant about the way that they allowed contractors to access it. And they just warned you, you could get in trouble if you do this wrong, but there was no actual safeguards preventing me from accessing that data. It was just, logged so that in the future it could be audited, but that didn't really prevent any problems in real time.
Yeah. You also don't know like what third parties they might be selling that data to, and if they're like profiling like faces with AI
or how they're processing it. Exactly.
Yeah,
Like if you are doing natural language processing, or if you're doing facial recognition or other processing on people's data that you're storing, you could be selling that data to someone else for a lot of money. Even if it's like partially like anonymized, like that doesn't really mean much when all the data can kind of be pieced together afterwards. All right, so that is all the time we have for this week. I want to thank, of course, Zam and everybody else in the chat for hanging out with us today and talking about the security news, and also for some of the corrections, like on the distributed denial of secrets, hacktivist group versus distribution group. It's always good to have other people in the chat keeping us honest and hanging out with us. So, Alex, thanks for joining us this week. If you want to join us for our next Q&A session, you can either leave a question on the YouTube video and we will answer it live on Wednesday, where we hopefully will have a special guest, which I cannot announce yet. But if you if you join us either on the Security Forward channel or on the Hack5 channel on Wednesday, you can find out who that is. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.